Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Get her away from US. The scream snapped through the ballroom like a champagne flute shattering. Conversations died mid-sentence. Silverware hovered over plates. Even the music on stage thinned into a hesitant, unfinished note, then stopped, as if the room itself had decided to hold its breath. Under chandelier light that turned everything gold and expensive, Veronica Lancaster leaned over the white linen table, arm extended, finger stabbing the air toward the black woman seated in the VIP row. Sequins on Veronica's navy dress caught the light like tiny blades. Her mouth, painted a perfect red, twisted into something that wasn't merely anger. It was certainty. The kind that assumes agreement will follow. Beside her, Reed Lancaster stood so fast his chair scraped the polished floor, an ugly sound in a room built to feel elegant. He pointed too, jaw tight, eyes lit with old money confidence. If he said someone didn't belong, the room would make it true. She touched me, Veronica snapped, loud enough for 3 tables to hear. She brushed right past me like I was nothing. Do you know who I am? The black woman didn't flinch. Imani Cole sat upright, shoulders easy, hands resting calmly near her place setting. No loud jewelry. No designer logos begging for validation. Just quiet precision, like someone who never needed to announce power because power already knew her name. Behind her stood Officer Derek Shaw, contracted security for the event. Broad-shouldered, radio clipped to his uniform, eyes trained to read risk. He wasn't aggressive yet. But he did what people always did when a complaint came from wealth: he moved toward control. "Ma'am," he said, low and practiced, "can you stand up for me a moment? Let's step aside and sort this out." His hand came down lightly, on the back of her chair, not her body. Still, the message traveled through the room: you are the one being relocated. Imani turned her head slowly, meeting his gaze without fear, without apology. Around them, attention thickened. Guests pretended to sip wine while watching over the rim of their glasses. A whisper slid between 2 donors like a secret they felt entitled to own. "Who is she?" "Probably staff," someone murmured. "They always sneak into the good seats." Reed's tone sharpened. "This is a private gala. You can't just sit wherever you want. Remove her." Officer Shaw's eyes flicked toward the event coordinator near the stage, an unspoken request for backup. The coordinator hesitated, caught between optics and pressure. That hesitation was all Reed needed. "Now," Reed barked. "Do your job." Imani spoke softly, steady as a closed door. "I didn't touch her." Veronica let out a laugh that wasn't humor, it was permission for cruelty. "Oh, so I'm lying now? Typical." Reed leaned in, invading her space like proximity could substitute for truth. "People like you don't get to create a scene here and walk away. Stand up." Imani's eyes dropped briefly to the place card in front of her, thick ivory stock, gold embossing, resting in a polished holder. A 7 VIP sponsor. A detail Reed hadn't bothered to read. Because he saw her skin first. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Imani Cole. Officer Shaw tried again, firmer, but still controlled. "Ma'am, I need to verify your credentials. Do you have your wristband or digital pass?" The room had the tense stillness of a courtroom, except the people watching were dressed for celebration. On stage, the pianist glanced at the stage manager, unsure whether to play through the tension or acknowledge it. The stage manager lifted a hand. Hold. Imani reached into her clutch with unhurried precision. No frantic movement. No shaky hands. Just a smooth, deliberate action, like she'd done this in boardrooms where men raised their voices to cover their incompetence. She pulled out her phone and tapped once. The screen lit her face faintly. A clean digital pass appeared, QR code, sponsor tier, and one line beneath it. Diamond sponsor Imani Cole. Officer Shaw leaned in before he could stop himself. He pulled out his handheld scanner, standard for check-in, and scanned the code. The device chirped green. Valid. He exhaled, barely. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Hearing her name spoken correctly changed something in the air. Veronica's eyes flashed. Reed's mouth tightened. Near the stage, an assistant holding a tablet went pale. Her gaze lifted toward Imani, then dropped back to the screen as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something safer. Stage, the assistant whispered into her earpiece, voice tight, hold the music. The pianist's fingers hovered above keys that never came down. The drummer froze, sticks suspended. Silence landed, heavy and deliberate. Veronica, drunk on being obeyed, didn't notice the staff panic. I don't care what she's holding, she hissed. Get her away from us. Reed nodded, feeding the fire. This is embarrassing. Officer, escort her out. Officer Shaw didn't move. His jaw flexed. He looked toward his supervisor at the edge of the VIP row, an older man in a dark suit, earpiece in, scanning. The supervisor's eyes met Officer Shaw's, and the message was clear, do not touch her. Then the supervisor murmured into his radio, and a voice crackled back, quiet, urgent. Derek, it said, do not move her. That's Cole. Reed heard none of the radio. He heard only his own confidence echoing in a room that was starting to reject it. Imani lifted her phone, tapped a contact, and pressed call. The line rang once. And in a voice calm enough to sound polite, yet sharp enough to cut through every chandelier and borrowed ounce of certainty in that room, Imani said, Put it on speaker. Speaker, the voice on the other end replied, brisk and alert. This is Nadia Brooks. Imani didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The silence had already made her audible. Nadia, Imani said, you're on speaker. Reed's brows tightened as if the concept of a black woman having counsel on speed dial offended him more than anything else. Veronica scoffed. Oh please. Call whoever you want. She still needs to leave. Nadia didn't answer Veronica. She spoke to the facts. Imani, are you safe? I'm seated where I was assigned, Imani said. I'm being told to stand up and leave. There was a pause. Not confusion, calculation. Then Nadia's voice came through louder, precise enough to stamp the air. Confirming, Diamond sponsor credentials. Seat A7. Valid check-in. Contracted access. Those words didn't evaporate like gossip. They landed like ink. Veronica's face twitched. Reed's eyes flicked fast toward the place card he had ignored. Celeste Harrington appeared at the edge of the VIP row, moving quickly but trying not to look frantic. She wore the kind of elegance that signaled authority without shouting. A practiced host's smile fixed on her face like a shield. Ms. Cole, Celeste said, too warmly, we're honored you could attend. I'm terribly sorry for the disturbance. Reed snapped toward her. Celeste, what is this? You're going to apologize to her? Celeste didn't hold his gaze. Her eyes stayed on Imani because Celeste understood money the way sailors understood storms. "May we speak privately?" Celeste asked. Imani let the request hang, letting Celeste feel what it meant to ask instead of command. "We can speak," Imani said. "Right here is fine." Nadia's voice returned, lower, decisive. "Imani, tell me what you want." Imani's gaze swept the room, candles, crystal, faces pretending they hadn't chosen a side. She remembered arriving earlier, valet taking keys without eye contact, check-in asking for a real invitation twice. Tiny humiliations dressed up as procedure. She had watched them because she wasn't here for a party. She was here for a decision. Reed Lancaster's empire was bleeding quietly, loan covenants tightening, cash flow thinning, legacy held together by appearance and desperate credit. Tonight was designed to dazzle donors, secure pledges, and whisper deals over dessert. Celeste Harrington's foundation, publicly saintly, had a private appetite for benefactors who asked no questions. Imani had come to decide whether to fund a future or cut a lie off at the root. Now the room was forcing the decision into daylight. "I want the room to learn something," Imani said into the phone. Reed scoffed, but it sounded thinner now. "You're enjoying this." "Not enjoying," Imani replied. "Correcting." Nadia didn't hesitate. "Understood. Say the word." Imani looked at Veronica's finger, still pointed like an accusation could rewrite reality. She looked at Reed, still standing like the room owed him obedience. She looked at the crowd witnesses who had watched like it was entertainment. Then she spoke, soft and final. "Cancel everything," she said. "Now." "Executing," Nadia replied. Officer Shaw's radio crackled, sharper. "Security, stand by. Preserve footage. No removals without approval." Near the stage, the assistant's tablet buzzed again. A banner flashed on the sponsor dashboard, "Payment hold initiated, pending executive review." The assistant's hands began to shake. Reed didn't see the tablet. He saw only a black woman refusing to be moved, and he couldn't understand a world where that was allowed. "You can't just," he started, turning to Celeste. "She's making a scene." Imani met his eyes, calm and devastating. "This is your scene," she said. "I'm just not playing the role you wrote." Veronica's voice rose, brittle. "You're going to pull your donation? Over a misunderstanding?" Imani's gaze didn't waver. "I'm placing a hold," she said. "Because this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a pattern." Celeste's voice trembled under polish. "Ms. Cole, please. We can handle this discreetly." Imani watched the crowd instead, the way people leaned in when cruelty was free, then discovered manners when consequences arrived. Nadia's voice came through again, crisp and procedural. "Imani, we've issued a payment hold on Cole International disbursements tied to tonight. We've notified the venue's processors and the foundation's finance contact. Nothing moves until review. Media placements tied to Cole sponsorship are paused pending an ethics assessment." Celeste's jaw tightened. "Venue processors?" Imani finally looked at her. "You didn't ask who underwrote this ballroom," she said softly. "You just enjoyed the candles." Phones vibrated across the room, dozens at once. Donors glanced down at screens. Some frowned. Some stiffened. Some began typing like their thumbs could erase what they had seen. Because reputations didn't survive videotape. A server moved too quickly behind Veronica's chair, trying to slip away from the blast zone. His name tag read ELI. His eyes flicked from Imani to Veronica and back again, fear and guilt wrestling in his face. Imani caught his gaze, not accusing, not pleading, just seeing him. Eli swallowed hard. Reed's own phone buzzed in his jacket pocket. He ignored it until it buzzed again, insistent like a heartbeat gone wrong. He pulled it out and glanced down. His face changed. Not into fear yet. Into disbelief. Urgent, credit facility, compliance inquiry received. He swallowed. Looked up. Met Imani's eyes. For the first time, he understood he wasn't arguing with a woman at a table. He was arguing with a system, and she was no longer shielding him from it. Veronica saw Reed's face and panicked. "Reed? What is it?" He didn't answer. His thumb trembled as he opened the message. Across the room, Celeste's phone rang. She stared at it like it might bite. Caller ID, board chair. She didn't pick up. It rang again. The third ring sounded like a countdown. The supervisor at the edge of the VIP row stepped closer, voice respectful. "Ms. Cole, would you like a private room?" Imani shook her head. "No," she said. "I want witnesses." A door at the back of the ballroom opened, not dramatically, not theatrically, just controlled. 3 people stepped in, Nadia Brooks in a tailored black blazer with a slim briefcase, Victor Hahn carrying a laptop bag like it was a tool of precision, and Marlene Foster with a thick folder stamped with corporate letterhead. They moved with purpose, not panic. Reed stared at them. Celeste's assistant whispered, "That's her team." Nadia walked straight to Imani's side and didn't look at Reed first. She looked at Officer Shaw. "Officer," Nadia said, clipped and respectful, "we're formally requesting immediate preservation of all security footage from the last 45 minutes. Multiple angles. No deletions. No edits." Officer Shaw nodded quickly. "Understood." Reed scoffed, trying to sound amused. "What is this? A lawsuit performance?" Nadia turned her eyes on him with surgical precision. "This is called a record," she replied. "For when people change their story." Celeste stepped forward, hands slightly raised, smoothing the air. "Nadia, we can resolve this." Nadia didn't let her finish. She pulled out a single document and held it up just high enough for Celeste to see. "Notice of sponsorship suspension," Nadia said. "Effective immediately, pending an independent ethics review due to discriminatory conduct on-site and failure to protect a contracted guest." Celeste blinked. "We didn't." "You did," Nadia cut in, calm. "By allowing it. By encouraging it through silence. By letting a donor's status determine who deserves dignity." Victor opened his laptop at the edge of the table without asking permission. The screen glowed with approvals, holds, and a finance dashboard that looked like oxygen being rationed. "Coal disbursements are on hold," Victor said evenly. "Nothing releases until review." Celeste's face tightened. "This foundation." Imani spoke with the calm of a gavel. "Your foundation will survive," she said. "Just not on my silence." Veronica lunged verbally, desperate to recover control. "This is insane. You're ruining the gala because I asked for safety." Nadia turned her head like she'd noticed a stain. "Safety," she repeated. Interesting choice of word, considering the only person pressured to move tonight was Ms. Cole. Reed's voice rose. "You're going to humiliate us in front of everyone?" Imani didn't blink. "You humiliated yourselves," she said. "I simply didn't absorb it for you." Marlene set her folder on the table with a soft thud, small sound, sharp impact. "We're also requesting internal documentation," Marlene said, "guest screening protocols, security escalation policy, contractor agreements, and bias training compliance records. Starting now." The word compliance made the room colder than any winter draft. Reed's face reddened. This is a charity event. You're acting like we committed a crime. Nadia's voice stayed level. Discrimination doesn't become less real because there's a chandelier. Officer Shaw's supervisor stepped forward, professional and quiet. Mr. and Mrs. Lancaster, I'm going to ask you to step away from the VIP area while we clarify facts. This is a neutral step pending review. Veronica recoiled. Excuse me? We're on the board. Tonight, the supervisor said gently, this is about safety and process. Please stand. Reed's jaw clenched. You can't do this. Imani's voice turned quiet, almost gentle, and somehow more frightening because of it. Reed, she said, using his first name like she had the right, you came here believing you were untouchable. She paused, letting the room hang on the words. You were wrong. Celeste swallowed, eyes darting across donors and cameras in panic. Miss Cole, she whispered, what do you want? Imani didn't answer right away. She scanned faces, who looked guilty, who looked entertained, who looked afraid. She saw Eli near a pillar, hands shaking. She met his eyes again, steady. Then she looked back at Celeste. I want the mic, Imani said. The stage manager approached with a handheld microphone like it was a fragile object that could detonate. Imani took it. And the room went quiet enough to hear candle wicks breathe. My name is Imani Cole, she said, voice steady. I'm the CEO of Cole International. Recognition moved through the ballroom like an electric current. A few faces shifted into horror, the kind that comes when people realize they've been cruel to someone powerful and now must pretend they weren't. Reed's mouth parted. Veronica whispered, no. Imani continued, controlled and unhurried. Tonight, I was seated where I was assigned. I was invited. I was cleared. And I was treated as if my presence required permission. Veronica burst out, desperate. This is not about race. Imani turned her head slightly, calm. Then explain why you didn't ask my name, she said. Explain why you didn't ask for my pass. Explain why your first instinct was removal. Veronica's lips moved, but no sound came. Reed tried to salvage control with anger. You're twisting this into a spectacle. A spectacle, Imani repeated. That's what you wanted when you pointed at me. She gestured, small and precise, toward Veronica's finger, the accusation that had started it all. You wanted me embarrassed, Imani said. Small. Grateful for survival. But dignity doesn't require an invitation. The room froze, not theatrically. Truly. Like the air didn't know where to go. I'm placing a formal hold on Cole International funds scheduled for this event, Imani said. Not because I'm emotional. Not because I'm petty. Because I'm responsible. Celeste's eyes glistened. Ms. Cole, please. Imani lifted one finger, not rude, final. This foundation will not use my name while refusing to protect basic dignity in the room it controls. Effective immediately, Cole funds tied to tonight are held pending independent review. Reed's voice came out hoarse. You can't do that. You can't just pull. I can, Imani said, and the simplicity of it landed like a door closing. She lowered the mic slightly. Her next words were quieter, and because of that they hit harder. You knew I was a human being, she said. That should have been enough. Officer Shaw stood a little straighter, not from fear, but from clarity. Eli took a small step forward, involuntary. Veronica's head snapped toward him, eyes warning him to disappear. Imani saw it. I also want it on record, Imani said, lifting the mic again, that no staff member will be punished for telling the truth tonight. Not a server. Not an assistant. Not a security officer. Eli's breath hitched. Veronica's mouth tightened. You're buying loyalty. Imani's eyes sharpened. No, she said. I'm paying what people are owed. She looked directly at Veronica. Intimidation is not elegance, Imani said. It's just fear wearing perfume. Reed stepped forward, shaking with controlled rage. You're doing this to destroy us. Imani didn't move. No, she said. I'm doing this to stop you from destroying others and calling it tradition. She turned to Celeste. I want your donor conduct policy enforced. I want your security escalation protocols reviewed. And I want the Lancasters removed from this VIP area while an emergency board review is initiated. Veronica gasped. You can't remove me from my own. Officer Shaw's supervisor stepped in smoothly. Mrs. Lancaster, he said, please stand. We'll step aside. Veronica looked around for rescue, someone to declare this a misunderstanding and restore the old order. Celeste didn't move. Because Celeste understood the old order had just met quiet power. Reed's phone buzzed again. He glanced down and turned paler. His voice cracked. They're asking questions. Imani leaned slightly toward Nadia, lowering the mic enough that only the nearest tables could hear, making it feel like judgment. Nadia, Imani said, read the second list. Nadia opened her folder like she was opening a verdict. She didn't step on stage. She didn't need to. The room was already seated. Item 1, Nadia read, voice steady, hold on all coal international disbursements tied to this gala and associated media placements, pending an independent ethics assessment. A murmur slid through the room. Item 2, formal request to preserve all venue and contracted security footage, including body cam if applicable, plus staff incident logs. Officer Shaw nodded without thinking. Item 3, formal complaint filed for discriminatory conduct and negligent security escalation, including witness statements collected on site. Reed scoffed, but his voice sounded desperate now. This is extortion. Extortion is threat without evidence, Nadia replied evenly. This is documentation. Nadia flipped a page. Item 4, reputational risk notification sent to relevant compliance contacts where applicable. To be clear, those institutions determine their own actions. We provide information, they make decisions. Reed's jaw clenched. That wording, clean, legal, left him nothing to argue with. Veronica hissed, you're weaponizing money. Imani answered softly, I'm weaponizing accountability. Phones were fully out now. Not subtle. Not polite. Full screens. Full focus. Then, from near the pillar, Eli moved. He stepped forward, hands empty, shoulders tight. His name tag caught chandelier light like a confession. Veronica's eyes snapped to him, sharp and warning. Don't you dare. Eli flinched, then kept walking anyway, like some part of him decided he'd rather be afraid than complicit. I saw it, Eli said, voice shaking. I saw what happened. The room turned toward him like a single organism. She stepped into Ms. Cole, Eli said, words tumbling faster now. She leaned in first. Ms. Cole didn't touch her. Ms. Cole tried to walk around, and Mrs. Lancaster, she made it a scene. Silence. Not the polite silence of wealth. The stunned silence of truth landing. Officer Shaw's supervisor nodded to a staff member. Get his statement, he said. Right now. Eli's shoulders sagged, relief and terror mixing. Imani looked at him, voice gentle for the first time all night. Thank you, she said. Nadia closed the folder with a soft snap. Miss Harrington, she said to Celeste, will require a full incident report, contractor roster, and escalation documentation by morning. Any missing records will be treated as obstruction. Celeste's voice cracked. You're going to destroy us. Imani lifted the mic again and looked at the crowd witnesses who had watched until watching became expensive. No, Imani said. I'm going to stop you from calling this normal. She swept her gaze across the tables like a spotlight. Tonight, she said, you learned my name. A beat. Now learn your own. And the Gala, built on appearances, began to fracture under the weight of being seen. The first person to stand wasn't Imani. It was a man in a tux near the back, quietly pushing his chair in, murmuring to his date, we should go. Not because he was offended by discrimination. Because he could smell a sinking ship. Chairs shifted. A few guests began to leave with the slow politeness of people trying to pretend their retreat wasn't fear. Others stayed seated, frozen in wealthy paralysis, etiquette failing to tell them what to do when power stopped behaving the way they expected. Veronica's voice shredded the fragile quiet. So that's it, she snapped, face flushed. You humiliate us, you place holds, you call your lawyers, and you walk away like a hero? Imani's eyes lifted, calm. I'm not a hero, she said. I'm a person who refuses to be disposable. Veronica scoffed, voice cracking at the edges. You're punishing a foundation that helps people. Imani's gaze didn't waver. Then it should welcome accountability, she replied. Charity without standards is just theater. Nadia's phone buzzed. She glanced down and leaned toward Imani. Board chair is calling Celeste again, she murmured. They want emergency session first thing. Celeste stood rigid, as if her spine alone could hold the evening together. Her lips moved, searching for a phrase that could undo reality. Imani didn't give her that mercy. Imani raised the mic again, voice steady enough to feel like policy. I'm not removing resources from the community, she said. I'm removing my resources from the performance. A beat. Effective immediately, all coal international funds originally designated for tonight's gala will be redirected into an escrow structure with independent oversight, transparent reporting, and public auditing. Celeste's head snapped up. You can't, those pledges. Your pledges are yours to manage, Imani said. My funds are mine to protect. The distinction mattered. It made the move feel less like spectacle and more like governance. And here's where coal international funds will go, Imani continued, turning slightly so every camera caught her profile, her calm, her refusal to beg. 1. A scholarship pipeline for adult learners and first-generation graduates in this city. Not a one-time check, tuition, housing support, mentoring. A few donors blinked, as if the phrase adult learners had brought the city into the room. 2. A small business seed fund for founders shut out of traditional lending, especially black and brown entrepreneurs who get asked for twice the proof and offered half the respect. Reed's nostrils flared. So you are making it racial. Imani cut him off without raising her voice. You made it racial when you assumed I was the problem, she said. I'm just refusing to pretend otherwise. 3, she went on, a worker dignity clause for any future coal-sponsored events. That means every contracted staff member, servers, security, cleaning crews has protections, fair pay, and a reporting line that doesn't lead back to people who think intimidation is normal. Eli's eyes widened. He looked down like he didn't deserve relief. Imani saw him. To the staff, she said, steady, you will not be punished for telling the truth tonight. If anyone tries, they'll answer for it. Veronica's face tightened. You're buying loyalty. Imani's expression sharpened. No, she said. I'm paying what people are owed. Nadia leaned in again, voice low. Update, she murmured. Lancaster Holdings Bank has opened a reputational risk file. Not a call, review. They're requesting information. Imani nodded once. Good, she said, not pleased, resolved. Reed heard bank and snapped. What are you doing? He demanded, voice tight with panic. Imani met his eyes. I'm not doing anything that wasn't already possible, she said. I'm just no longer absorbing it for you. We notified compliance of what occurred. Institutions decide what risk they tolerate. Reed swallowed, searching her face for an opening. You don't understand what you're disrupting. Imani's calm didn't change. I understand exactly, she said. A system that only feels disrupted when people like me refuse to be quietly removed. Officer Shaw's supervisor approached again, posture smooth. Mrs. Lancaster, he said gently, please come with us. Veronica jolted. Touch me and I'll. Nadia's voice cut in, calm but lethal. If you threaten staff again, we'll treat it as intimidation of a witness. Veronica froze. And for the first time, she looked small, not because she lacked money, but because she lacked control. Security guided Reed and Veronica away from the VIP row. Not dragged. Not brutal. Just removed with the quiet efficiency of procedure, exactly the kind of procedure they had tried to use as a weapon. Cameras followed like predators. Reed tried to keep his chin up, but his eyes kept darting to his phone, notifications stacking like a verdict. Imani watched them go, then faced the crowd again. Tonight, she said, voice steady, I didn't come for applause. A pause. I came to see who you become when no one is clapping. The room didn't cheer. It couldn't. Cheering would have meant admitting they'd been complicit in the silence. The gala ended not with a toast, but with an evacuation, guests slipping out as if leaving early could erase the moment from their timelines. Celeste stayed behind, standing in the wreckage of her carefully managed evening, staring at the scattered place cards like they were pieces of a broken map. Nadia approached her, crisp. You'll receive document requests by midnight, she said. Incident logs. Contractor lists. Training records. Escalation policy. Full staff roster for tonight. Celeste's mouth trembled. You're going to make an example of us. Imani, already turning away, answered without looking back. No, she said. I'm going to make you honest. Outside, the city air was colder than the ballroom's perfume. Reporters weren't there yet. The public didn't know yet. But the internet always arrived first. By the time Imani's car door closed, clips had already been uploaded. The exact moment of Veronica's scream. Reed's finger. Officer Shaw's request. The line that had changed the temperature. You knew I was a human being. That should have been enough. Hashtags didn't need permission. They needed footage. And footage had already begun to spread. Warning replaced chandelier gold with fluorescent truth. The emergency board meeting wasn't held at the ballroom. It was held where accountability lived, in a glass-walled conference room at the Foundation's headquarters, overlooking a city that didn't care about anyone's last name. Celeste Harrington arrived early, alone except for her assistant. In daylight, she looked smaller, makeup couldn't hide the sleepless panic in her eyes. Her assistant hovered with a laptop, hands trembling over the keyboard. Then the doors opened. Imani Cole walked in with Nadia on her left and Victor on her right. Clean, sharp minimalism. The kind that made a room feel underdressed without ever raising its voice. Several board members stood instinctively, some out of respect, some out of fear. One older man stayed seated with arms crossed, trying to project defiance. His chin was lifted like stubbornness could rewrite the internet. Imani didn't acknowledge the performance. She set a thin file on the table. Nadia slid a second file beside it. Victor opened his laptop and turned the screen toward the room. The board chair, Gloria Benton, stern, controlled, cleared her throat. "Miss Cole," she began, careful, "we understand last night." "No," Imani replied calmly. "You understand the consequences of last night. Let's not confuse the two." Gloria's jaw tightened. "We're prepared to issue a statement of apology." Imani's eyes didn't soften. "Apologies are cheap," she said. "Governance is not." Nadia took over with the crispness of someone who could turn a moral issue into enforceable policy. "We're presenting requirements for any future affiliation with Cole International," Nadia said, sliding documents across the table. 1. Emergency board review under bylaws to suspend Reed and Veronica Lancaster from involvement pending an independent investigation. 2. Mandatory bias and escalation training for staff, contractors, and board members. 3. Formation of an external oversight committee with auditing power, selected independently, not by the foundation. A board member scoffed. "You want to run our foundation?" Imani's gaze landed on him like a weight. "I want your foundation to stop running on harm," she said. "If accountability feels like losing control, ask yourself what you were controlling." Celeste's voice pushed through, thin and defensive. "We didn't know who she was." Imani turned slightly toward her. "That wasn't the problem," she said. "The problem is you treated a human being as disposable until a title made her valuable." Gloria leaned forward. "Our donors are calling. Partners are nervous." Victor tapped a key. On the screen, a list appeared: paused pledges, delayed disbursements, sponsors requesting review. Notes beside names: pending due diligence, reputational risk flagged. "This isn't nervous," Victor said quietly. "This is retreat." Celeste swallowed. "They'll come back." Nadia's voice was flat. "Not without conditions." The door opened again. A man in a suit entered with a folder stamped with a bank logo. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. "Miss Harrington," he said, "I'm here on behalf of Northbridge Capital regarding Lancaster Holdings credit facility." Celeste's spine stiffened. "This is a foundation meeting." "It intersects," the man replied evenly. He opened the folder. "Due to last night's incident and resulting reputational exposure, we are initiating a covenant review. At this time, we're requesting leadership and governance updates, and we're reserving rights under the facility." A board member inhaled sharply. "You can't do that over a Gala argument." The banker's expression didn't change. "We can do that over risk," he said. "And risk is exactly what last night became." Celeste's eyes darted to Gloria, then to Imani, then back to the banker like she was watching her world shrink. Imani remained still, voice calm. "This is what I mean," she said. "You built a machine that runs on unchecked power. Now it's eating your credibility." Gloria swallowed. "If we accept these requirements, will Cole's funds return?" Imani didn't answer immediately. She looked around the room at people who had once believed morality was marketing. "My money isn't a reward," Imani said finally. "It's a responsibility. If you meet standards, the community gets resources through transparent channels. If you don't, Cole funds go directly to organizations already doing the work without your spotlight." Celeste's voice cracked. "You're forcing us." Imani's eyes held hers. "No," she said softly. "I'm offering you a chance to become what you claim to be." Gloria exhaled slowly. "Call the vote," she said. Hands rose, some reluctant, some eager, some trembling. The motion was messy and human and real, and it made the room feel suddenly less like a club and more like an institution. When the vote passed to initiate emergency suspension proceedings under bylaws and to appoint an independent investigator, Celeste's shoulders sagged like a costume finally dropping. Across the city, Reed Lancaster sat in a private office with a view that used to feel like ownership. His phone buzzed again, another compliance request, another please respond, another required. Veronica paced, furious and frightened, rehearsing statements in a mirror that no longer believed her. By noon, the foundation issued a statement carefully worded, legally safe, morally late. By afternoon, the Lancasters were barred from foundation events pending investigation. And by evening, the rumor the city repeated had changed. It wasn't about a glamorous gala anymore. It was about a line being drawn quietly, cleanly, and enforced. Weeks passed, and the ballroom became just a room again. No cameras. No chandeliers and headlines. No whispered laughter curdling into fear. But the aftershocks didn't fade. They settled into lives the way consequences always did, slowly, then all at once. Eli sat in a small office at a community center, hands clasped so tight his knuckles went white. He still worked service shifts some nights, but his posture had changed. He didn't look down when he spoke anymore. Across from him lay an application packet. Cole Dignity Fund, Career Pathway Fellowship. I'm not a student," Eli said quietly, almost apologetic. The program director smiled. "You're a person who told the truth," she replied. "That's rarer than a degree." Eli swallowed, blinking hard. He nodded and signed his name like it mattered. Across town, Officer Derek Shaw stood in a training room with a dozen other security contractors. It wasn't punishment by exile. It was accountability by education. A facilitator spoke about bias, about escalation, about the way procedure becomes a weapon when it only leans one direction. About how neutrality turns into harm when it protects comfort instead of people. Derek listened with his jaw set, not defensive, but awake. When the facilitator asked for volunteers to speak, Derek raised his hand. "I thought I was keeping order," Derek said, voice steady. "I didn't realize who I was being ordered by." It wasn't a confession for applause. It was a promise to do better. And the Lancasters? Their world didn't collapse with a cinematic explosion. It shrank in quiet, humiliating ways, invite lists that stopped including their names, calls that went unanswered, partners who suddenly remembered priorities, and friends who smiled in public while creating distance in private. Reed Lancaster sat at his desk one afternoon, staring at a framed photo from a previous gala, him and Veronica smiling, spotless, untouchable. The smile looked different now. Not because the photo changed. Because he finally saw what had always been in it, entitlement dressed as tradition. His phone rang, another banker, another consultant, another "we need to discuss," and he didn't pick up immediately. Not out of power. Out of exhaustion. Veronica tried to fight the narrative at first, private dinners, controlled statements, a carefully crafted misunderstanding story. But the video existed. Eli's statement existed. The board's emergency vote existed. And most importantly, the world had watched her point at a black woman like she was trash and call it safety. That didn't wash off. Celeste Harrington remained as interim executive director for a limited time under oversight, her authority narrowed by transparency. In meetings, she spoke less. She listened more. Not because she became saintly overnight. Because fear can be educational when it finally points in the right direction. Imani Cole didn't do interviews. She didn't tour talk shows. She didn't monetize the moment. She did what she always did: moved resources, built structure, demanded measurable accountability, then stepped back and let results speak. A new oversight committee formed with real-teeth auditors, community representatives, compliance professionals with no interest in donor gossip. Policies changed from decorative to enforceable. Staff training stopped being a checkbox and started being a standard. The next event under the foundation's name looked different: less glitter, more clarity. A worker dignity clause hung inside the staff corridor, printed and signed, not hidden. A hotline number posted in plain sight, not buried in fine print. Security protocols updated with one line in bold. No guest shall be removed without verification and supervisor review. Presumed dignity. Imani never attended that event. She didn't need the stage. She wanted the system. On a rainy evening, Nadia met Imani in a quiet office downtown. City lights blurred on the glass like watercolor. Papers were stacked neatly: reports, audits, scholarship rosters, seed fund approvals. "Your name is everywhere," Nadia said, scrolling through headlines and reposts. "People are calling you a symbol." Imani looked down at the street below, where ordinary life moved without hashtags: people rushing, umbrellas colliding, a woman helping a man pick up dropped groceries. "A symbol can be ignored," Imani said. "A system can't." Nadia nodded once. "The fund is live. First scholarships went out today. Seed fund approvals next week." Imani's breath eased in a way most people wouldn't notice. "Good," she said. Nadia hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever get tired?" Imani turned slightly. Her expression stayed calm, but history lived in the corners of it. "I get tired of pretending," she said. "Not of acting." Outside, rain fell steady and patient, unstoppable, unbothered by who thought they owned the sidewalk. In that same city, a future business owner opened an acceptance email. A future graduate paid tuition. A worker reported discrimination without losing their job. Not because someone shouted. Because someone was steady enough to draw a line and enforce it. And the lesson that remained quiet, clean, unavoidable was the one the Gala had been forced to learn in silence. Dignity isn't earned by status. It's revealed by how you treat people when you think no one important is watching.